Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1976. We're going to be looking at some old grey whistle test footage, and it's going to be Be-Bop Deluxe, and they're going to be playing through Forbidden Lovers, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time before the end for Down on Terminal Street as well. So let's get the guys up on screen and see how they get on. I'm just going to jump in here because we've got a good vibe of the performance so far, and the great thing about this track, but also Be-Bop Deluxe as a band, is that their music always takes you on a journey and it turns a corner when you don't expect it to, and it's on that borderline between knowing where you're going, but then still being familiar enough for you then to come back into the verse and then understand where you are. And then same with the chorus as well. The way that we've got those harmonies in there, vocal harmonies. Also, Bill Nelson here on lead vocal and guitar, he was very much that driving force behind the band, and these guys were only really around for 6 years between 1972 and 1978. He was the main songwriter and singer, lead guitarist as well, and he has done other songs and albums where he's done everything himself, so he's had that drive to really push forward with it. And with Be-Bop Deluxe, there were quite a few personnel changes as well within the band, and I think that's one of the reasons that Be-Bop Deluxe were only around for 6 years, because Bill wanted to move on to another project and slightly change the sound, because in the industry at that time the sound was moving forward and Bill wanted to go with that change. In their sound, they've got progressive rock and classic rock and hard rock in there, and I think they experimented with glam rock as well, with makeup, maybe a slightly different image at the beginning of their careers, but I think that this really does suit them more straight down the line, just a shirt and tie, and letting the music do the talking. As soon as we start this track, we can tell that Bill knows his stuff because we're in with a lead solo that's really nicely played. He's got all of his control in there, great vibrato as well, and while he's playing and singing at the same time, the amount of lines that he puts in that are actually lead lines are surprising, and they might fly under the radar, very much following that blueprint of the blues, of singing and then giving a response on the guitar. But he can also supply those rhythm chords as well in the background, even though we have got that second rhythm guitar, so that when Bill does go off into a lead solo, it doesn't drop out. And when Bill plays these lead lines, which aren't designated lead solos, they're just lines that he throws in between the vocals, we've got a really cool slide up the guitar and some really melodic playing that complements the vocal and just complements the whole track. It doesn't seem out of place, and that's what great players do. They just play for the track, and Bill is one of those. Just looking at the band as a whole within this performance, there are so many accents throughout this track that they have to be on the ball the whole time. You can see the drummer catching the crash, everyone's being super tight, but all on the same page, and it is a lot more difficult than they're making it look. You have those elements of straight up rock and roll, and then once you start bringing in the more progressive elements, progressive rock, it takes it down a totally different avenue than you were expecting, because when you're listening to standard rock and roll, everybody knows how that goes, so you know where the changes are and you're expecting to go there, whereas as soon as you throw in that progression you're not expecting, it gives the music a different quality and it's going to make it a lot more interesting. I've just queued it forward because I want to get a little bit of Down on Terminal Street in this video as well. The link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can check it out in its entirety if you want to there, but let's get into Down on Terminal Street.
See the ancient faces living there. I saw the sunken eyes of agony. I saw the desperate stations of despair. And I'm waiting for the spirit ghost to come. Somewhere written but unsung. Saw the smiling waters cutting down the news, which my drowning head was on. Oh, I'm down on Terminal Street. Oh, I'm down on Terminal Street cafe which closed to all but ghosts who glide the alleys searching for their lair. I heard a voice like winter call my name. Said very soon that I would join them there. And all the creatures on all can recognize all my pen and ran across hills to die. Fascination was the charm of their disease.
we have it. And I was just waiting at the end there because Bill is the kind of player who you know somehow he's going to get that feedback at the end to finish with, because you're just waiting for it to come in, and it does. Bill, like all the top lead guitarists, he can take you on a really cool melodic lead solo, and he's just going to be flashing you aces the whole time. Especially with the technique of that rundown that he did, it's got to be so clean and concise, especially as we've got a little bit of overdrive on the sound here, but it's not hidden at all. So his technique is absolutely top notch, and he's one of those guys that doesn't throw technique in your face the whole time. So when he does show you that kind of technique and those kind of runs, those progressive runs, it just makes it stick out even more because he does it so sparingly, and that's what all the great players do. Another thing to notice is the change in atmosphere from the first track, because now Bill has added a little bit of reverb to that guitar sound. We've also got reverb on his mic as well, so it changed that feel from Forbidden Lovers to now Down on Terminal Street, and it makes the overall performance a journey because you've gone to two totally different places and you've progressed with the sound. In 2011, Bill performed as Bill Nelson and the Gentlemen Rocketeers, and that show in London was filmed and it was recorded and released on a DVD, but also on a CD, and I don't know how it happened, but Bill at some point had signed away all of his rights to that video footage and to the music, so he didn't make any money from that DVD or the CD sales. And something that always seems to happen with record labels is that in 1997 and 1998, there were two separate releases of Be-Bop Deluxe greatest hits kind of albums, and Bill said that he didn't receive anything for those releases. That all went to the label, even though he'd written all those songs, and it's him singing it and performing it. So that's crazy. And in 2011, EMI totally remastered the whole back catalogue, and before this was released, Bill said that he actually wanted to get some royalties for his own music being released again, so they agreed, but only because Bill offered EMI some rare recordings that they could release with the remastered back catalogue, so they accepted that. So fortunately, from 2011, from that re-release, he actually made some money and is taking royalties from that. I seem to mention this quite a lot with top bands or artists who are signed to major labels. They either get a tiny percentage or, like Bill, just get cut out of the deal totally, even though it's his work being released. They just re-release it as a greatest hits album, change the order of the tracks, and then take all of that money. So it's outrageous, but I guess that is the music industry. It was back then, and it still is now, unfortunately. So it's one of the main reasons why I say if you can stay independent, that's the way to do it. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one.